Good morning and welcome to Lovin Daily. I'm Julian Bonnici. Today with us we have Sam Vassallo.
Hello.
Hi Sam.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
So today, just a quick rundown of what we'll be covering. We've got some updates on COVID-19 coronavirus in Malta. We've got some other updates on the horrific murder in Santa Lucia. And we've also got a continuation of MIRIAM Parch, you know, the woman who died in a construction accident a few weeks ago. To get started, we're going to start with coronavirus COVID-19 in Malta. Yesterday it was announced that there are now 107 confirmed cases. This came after Superintendent for Public Health Charmaine Gauci announced that there were 17 new cases in the country. Of those 17, 7 were locally transmitted. This means that these cases didn't go abroad or new people who potentially went abroad in the recent weeks. One of the cases, quite worrying, was a bus driver. The bus itself has been removed and the driver is stable and contact tracing is underway. But understandably, people were worried because a bus driver naturally has contact with loads of people from all walks of life, of all ages. However, authorities have insisted that buses are regularly disinfected while on their route. So we'll see in the coming days how this situation develops, but the authorities seem to think they have it under control.
And hopefully the bus driver stays at home, because if you breach quarantine, if you leave your home and you are COVID-19 positive, Malta has now imposed a €10,000 fine. First of all, why would you even be thinking about leaving your house if you have coronavirus? Beyond me. Please stay at home. This €10,000 fine has been upped from the previous €3,000 fine and was announced yesterday in the government's daily COVID-19 bulletin. Yesterday, 4 people were caught and fined. This is a PSA, stay home. Please stay home. And while you're at home, please send us your videos. Send your videos to Loving Malta of what you're doing in quarantine. I know I need some inspiration on what people are doing to let the days go by.
So there was also some news at the Planning Authority, no, yesterday, I think.
Yes, so the Minister for the Environment, Aaron Farrugia, has announced the cancellation of Planning Authority meetings.
Okay.
This comes after the negative reaction of NGOs to a meeting that was supposed to be held on Thursday. Coincidentally, there were going to be 3 controversial applications to be discussed, 2 high-rises and 1 sanctioning of an illegal excavation in Aura.
So at least we know COVID-19 might have shut down most of the economy except construction. On to that businessy side. So obviously COVID-19 is set to have quite a negative economic impact worldwide. Yesterday, Malta's cabinet had an emergency meeting at 8 p.m. to discuss business measures to help combat this negative economic downturn. The measures so far sort of have failed to inspire, you know, and business leaders, business owners and employees have all resoundingly criticized it. I think yesterday, Lovin Malta actually published a survey which was quite an illuminating piece on actually what might be going on within the sector. I think one person even said that the boss had already fired 7 people. So yes, drastic measures by businesses are already being taken. Thankfully, I mean, the banks have sort of stepped in and they're announcing a moratorium on loans. Obviously, it's no replacements for actual measures, so we'll see what the government announces later on today. But, you know, let's see how things go.
Indeed. In more international news, obviously concerning coronavirus, the UK has finally announced lockdown. Good morning, Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson has announced it's the biggest threat to hit the UK in decades. And listen, I know that the UK is not in the EU anymore, but the coronavirus doesn't care about politics, so, you know, welcome to reality. In other international news, Italy has recorded fewer new COVID-19 patients and fewer deaths for the 2nd day in a row. That is fantastic news for Italy. It seems that social distancing and closing of non-essential business is really is really helping with the outbreak, and that's really good news for us in Malta as well. So again, please stay home. Please stay home.
From some good news to some small bad news. So the Pope has actually cancelled his visit to Malta. It was meant to happen on 31st May, but now the head of the Roman Catholic Church is going to stay home, obviously because of this COVID-19 outbreak.
AKA he's being a responsible citizen. Solidarity, yes. Great.
So maybe now we can move on a little bit more to, I guess, good news, but it's still about quite a horrific story. Would you mind just explaining a bit?
Of course. So the Santa Lucia murder suspect has been arrested in Morocco. The victim, Victor McKeon, was murdered and found in plastic bags in a Santa Lucia apartment. A 37-year-old Libyan man has been arrested at Casablanca airport and will be extradited to Malta. Police investigations are ongoing.
Yeah, so obviously for people who don't remember, this happened about a week ago. You know, it was quite a horrific scene outside the Santa Lucia apartment. You know, maybe people were worried that the case wasn't going to be solved, but at least, you know, there seems to be some kind of breakthrough. People who are still waiting for answers are Miriam Parch's family, which brings us to our next story. So for those of you who don't remember, Miriam Parch died around 3 weeks ago in a fatal collapse in Hamrun. Her home was neighboring an excavation site. Her husband, Carmel, has actually now penned quite an emotional letter, you know, remembering his wife 3 weeks on, just detailing the absolute sudden loss and effect it's had on their family. Unfortunately, with the COVID-19 outbreak, the issues in the construction industry have now suddenly been forgotten. You know, fears are still growing, and people are still very, very, very much concerned. In fact, yesterday there were actually reports of a building collapse in Slima. Now, just to be clear, this turned out to be false, and we're apologizing from our end if we caused any unjust concerns or unjust worry for people out there. The fact does remain, though, that the construction industry really does need to be addressed, and COVID-19 is not some magical brush that's going to basically wipe the slate clean. You know, Prime Minister Roberta Bella, you promised change, and we still need to make sure it's realized. On that note, we're done for today, and thanks for joining us, and have a day full of loving.